How's it feel to get the HC whistle back for a training camp, Dan?
Yeah, it's good, man. It's definitely something, that having the connection with these coaches and the players here and building it all together with Adam. It's been a cool process to go through from free agency through the draft and adding this group together and like putting the whole thing. It's a lot of fun, man. There's a lot of new faces, both inside and out on the field. And so bringing all of that group together, man, like that's as cool as it gets.
So listen, obviously you've got an approach that's successful. We can establish that. And coaches are frequently quite set in their way. But how are you informed by your Atlanta experience as well as returning to the coordinator role? How is that informing your 2.0 version of yourself, if there's such a thing?
That's Coach? A good question, Rich. And it definitely is different. And I think you want to learn from those lessons that you had. Otherwise, the pain of going whatever you learned, isn't worth it. So there was definitely some things about Atlanta that I liked. And going to Dallas, I was able to apply some of the things I'd like to try differently, whether that had been in teaching or how to, change on a scheme or using different players, Rich, in different positions where maybe, there's a receiver that can play a running back, a safety that can play down to linebacker, a linebacker to play down to end. So having some position flexibility, the Dallas allowed me to do that. That experience with Parsons and Curse and others to move them around, that was a big deal. And then heading back into here as the head coach, applying different things that we started off training camp in the red zone. And so that wasn't anything that we had done before, but it proved to be really valuable, both for the players and for the staff to get rolling. So just a couple of small examples, but yeah, it's definitely 2.0. You want to learn from it and then try, to apply the new lessons to it.
How about philosophy in terms of staff or communicating with players? Again, I understand, you have your DNA there, but I'm just wondering if it's any different here.
Yeah, I think for sure the staff part, that's usually to make sure that the message comes from me through the staff down to the locker room. Usually as a coach, you've done a good job when you've heard a player say something or, their behaviors or actions or something that, you might have relayed in a staff meeting and then it got down to the player. So seeing that connection build between players and coaches, the staff itself, those take time, but it's been really cool to see these guys connect fast. We had a Bill Walsh fellow intern that was in recently, and he had said, I would have thought you guys would have been together 3 or 4 years, not 1 year. That made me feel good to know that this connection is happening fast and strong.
And how about the fact that you are the face-forward individual for a new ownership group in a town with a fan base that is eager for a page turn, to say the least, Coach?
Yeah, it's really cool, man, because like the Commanders, the organization, and like football here in the DMV, like it's really important, man. And so like for me growing up in New Jersey, the NFC East and, New York and Washington and Philly and Dallas and the battles that went, I can imagine, or I could recall a number of Sundays watching, John Madden and Summerall calling, games that were here. And so knowing to be part of this historic franchise, it's a really big deal. I can, even thinking back to, leaving Dallas and having a visit with Jerry Jones and saying how important this franchise is to the NFL. So when Josh and Adam, went through that process with them and they offered me the job, man, it was like, this is the spot. And every once in a while in your life, you're where you're supposed to be with the right people at the right time. And I certainly feel like that's this place here with me. And Josh and Adam were, at the very front of that.
We're right around the same age. I'm from Staten Island. You're born in Morristown, New Jersey. I remember Summerall and Brookshire calling the old Washington Dallas games where the Dallas offensive lineman would get up and get back down again. I remember those days, Dan.
Yeah, I remember going to training camp and, staying for 2 sessions just to watch the guys compete. And sometimes I think of that when you see the fans here. I was that kid, in high school or something, staying over at Fairleigh Dickinson to watch both practices and seeing Lawrence Taylor and others. And it was just like, I'll come pick me up at 5 o'clock. I'm just going to stay and watch football for today. So to be back in this area and with this organization, it feels really cool, Rich.
Wait a minute, you hit training camp as a kid in Jersey? Was it the Parcells era?
Yes,
early Parcells?
100%.
Really?
Yeah. So like, yeah, Leonard Marshall and Harry Carson and LT and Bavaro and Sims, like that whole crew, Joe Morris, like seeing those guys and going to practice, as a young kid and watching that, that was kind of where, it's first started to love football. Yeah. So seeing Parcells coach and the toughness, like I can remember Romeo Cornell and Belichick and others, just watching the whole thing, man.
And now you're somebody that could break the hearts of a kid that age now up there, Dan. Twice a year. That's your job to do that.
Exactly. So it's never lost on me, man. How cool it is and the opportunity here. So like having a second lap at it, you're not going to miss it. And I'm not going to miss it. So I just want to make sure all parts of it, man, go kick ass and have a lot of fun doing it.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern for free.